Badass jobs at night and in the dark.
You know very well you don't drive around sand. We can't go full throttle.
Deep underground.
Methane gas is very dangerous. If it has a certain concentration, it can explode. Attention! This mustn't happen or there will be deaths.
Between high shelves and in the cold store.
When you've been picking for 9 hours, it's very exhausting.
Extreme jobs without daylight. Not everyone is cut out for it. Six o'clock in the morning in Hesse. A new shipment has arrived at the Herfa-Neurode underground waste disposal site. Axel Papke is in charge of receiving it. All waste that is deposited here is so-called hazardous waste. The landfill has strict guidelines for deliveries. These toxic waste drums from France are packed a bit too casually.
It's banded together too narrowly.
Each pallet carries 6 barrels.
Okay, you have to take it down carefully.
The so-called banding worries Axel Papke, the band that holds the barrels together on the pallet.
Be careful, they're banded but too loose. Not good for transport. We must then reband here again.
Safety first applies everywhere on the landfill site. The forklift driver treats the barrels like raw eggs. After all, nothing must fall off. The drums contain waste containing mercury, highly toxic to humans and animals. Particularly safe storage in specially approved landfills is mandatory.
The banding or taping wasn't good. This means that we also have to ensure that no drums fall off the truck during underground transport, including for shaft transport. And that's why we have to reband them. A special thickness is required that has to withstand this. The drums mustn't fall apart. They would then practically fall onto the roadway underground. Under certain circumstances, they would burst open, break, and then the waste would be released. And we want to avoid that.
Before storing, the landfill workers open the barrels to see if what the customer has specified is inside. Before they open the lid, they check whether there are any explosive gases in the container. They have a special gas detector for this purpose.
It happens when any metals react with acids. If waste has become moist and we get some outgassing, or some things are thrown in, ferment, in the sense that alcohol or something like that is produced, then we also get outgassing. For us, these are things where we just don't open the barrels anymore, because then some kind of after-reaction takes place that is not allowed for us to store. They are then returned to the customer.
The measurement has shown that there are no explosive gases. This customer is disposing of waste in the underground storage for the first time. Before delivery, he had to send a sample, which was analyzed in the laboratory. The declaration analysis states exactly what Axel and his colleagues can expect.
It looks good, properly covered, but check lower. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. Brown, that's how it's supposed to look.
The experts take a composite sample from 3 different samples. The substance is said to be dry and sandy and to contain silicon as well as mercury. In general, the landfill doesn't accept all types of hazardous waste. Radioactive, infectious, explosive and liquid materials, for example, are excluded.
If you then open the lid, you can be confronted with the dust. If there are filter dusts in the drums. As I said, this is the precautionary measure we take to ensure that the employee, who is now carrying out the inspection, does not come into contact with the waste and inhale it. And of course, they have to wear gloves. Some waste is also corrosive, which could lead to injuries. And they wear glasses anyway, so they don't get anything in their eyes. And on top of that, we have the extraction system, which sucks any possible gases away from the employee.
Apparently, there is nothing wrong with this waste. For the transport to the underground, the men are already tying the barrels neatly. This would allow the containers to be transported safely. It's not yet clear whether the waste can really be stored. The experts will only know once the sample has been analyzed. No toxic substances are expected in the East Frisian town of Hesel. In the central warehouse of a large discounter, fresh food and other consumer goods are waiting to be delivered. Ingo Lücht has been working at the logistics center for 8 years. For the past 3 years as assistant warehouse manager.
Hello there. Yes, we'll go in here. Let's grab a lifting cart and then we can get into the loader, so to speak. Otherwise, all well? Yes, wonderful. Yeah, that's it. Open the gate.
The goods are delivered early in the morning. They have to be fast because a large part of it has to go straight out again. 82 stores in northwest and lower Saxony are supplied from here.
We place the pallets here in the 2 hoses, so to speak. Move them all the way to the front, set them down, and then the next pallets. Okay? Wonderful.
Ingo and his team have to get off to a good start in the morning so that the trucks can deliver on time at noon.
It's definitely all about the time management. We try to get the goods that come in out as quickly as possible. It always depends on which items they are. When it comes to fresh products, it is of course particularly important to get the goods from A to B quickly, so that they arrive at the point of sale in good time.
In order for the pickers to do their job efficiently, goods must not be placed just anywhere.
You can put the pallet right there. Looks good.
200 people work in the central warehouse. Anyone who wants to work here shouldn't only be fit, but ideally also an early riser, like Ingo.
We work from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., which means that we also start working with the supplier. So when the first driver arrives here, we also start working. There's not much preparation time, but we can start working directly.
The warehouse worker doesn't yet know whether he will be able to finish work on time. That also depends on whether the suppliers are all on time. Just like this truck, the driver can already start his way back.
Swap pallets? How many pallets have you unloaded? Shall we count them? Or do you know by heart? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pallets that should be. 9 pallets, right? Let me count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8.
The truck driver takes back so-called exchange pallets, just as many pallets as he has delivered.
Have a good trip. Until next time.
The central warehouse in Hesel has been in operation since 1982. In 2021, it was enlarged and modernized at a cost of almost 30 million euros. In the fresh produce warehouse, speed is of the essence, so that fruit and vegetables really do arrive fresh at the store.
I'm just checking whether the label is correct, because of course it's important for our customers to see where the goods actually come from, whether the number of grams is correct, and whether the goods are correctly positioned in the storage bin. For example, here in bin 26, so that we can pick them properly right away. Everything looks very good.
Fruit and vegetables are placed directly ready for picking upon delivery. If a product group is in the wrong bin location, the pickers would not find the items in the worst case. This means loss of time. In addition to the quality, Ingo therefore also checks whether the goods are placed correctly. This looks good. The pickers can come. From northern Germany to the Salzkammergut region in Austria. Salt has been mined in Hallstatt for more than 7,000 years, the oldest salt mine in the world. Foreman Florian Unterberger is in charge of the early shift.
Yes, I'm responsible in a way, but everyone knows what to do and how to do it anyway. They've all been here for a long time.
The journey into the mountain takes about 10 minutes. all under the watchful eye of Saint Barbara, the patron saint of miners. Arrived, but Florian and his colleagues are still not at their current place of work.
Now we have entered the adit. This is the deepest horizon, and it was now 1,800 meters. Now we are at the Boist shaft. Then we drive into the Franz Josef horizon, about 200 meters up, to the construction site.
The gallery is named after Emperor Franz Joseph of Austria. In the past, the Salzkammergut was the direct property of the Habsburgs, and Franz Joseph was a regular guest in nearby Bad Ischl. Florian reaches the Franz Josef horizon in a narrow elevator car. It takes some getting used to.
Of course, it is different to working in the fresh air, with eternal darkness in winter. We work until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so you see hardly any daylight. For us, it's normal.
The foreman sends his car back again and makes his way into the tunnel. Blasting is on the agenda today. Florian wants to see what's going on. Salt mining has a tradition in the Salzkammergut that goes back thousands of years. Florian's grandfather worked in the salt works. Nevertheless, miner was not Florian's original career aspiration.
I was born and raised in Hallstatt and went to school there. And my profession is a skilled trade, namely carpentry. But I wanted a change, and then I came to the salt works. Well, you grow up like that, and Hallstatt is a small town. Everyone knows everyone. And that's how it turns out.
In Hallstatt, the salt is not mined directly, but in the form of brine. This part of the shaft must be preserved in any case, because the brine pipeline to the outside runs in it. The mountain is at work.
Now we are on the main Franz Josef shaft, in an upward direction. We renovate the shaft because, due to the convergence, the gallery has become narrower, and we are now making the profile larger again. We are working with a demolition robot, which we have with various attachments. Now we're using the Aircut 50, a milling head, with which the elm wood and the ridges are torn.
Convergence means that the gallery becomes narrower and narrower due to mountain pressure. A few centimeters every year. Piece by piece, the robot mills its way through the rock. Without the machines, the work would be even more arduous. Further back in the tunnel, the miners can't get any further with the robot. There are lime deposits there. They are too hard to mill. Blasting is the only option.
A series of blast holes is drilled at the elm and the ridge, with a distance between 70 and 80 centimeters and 1.8 meters deep. If you exceed that, then the holes remain and the explosives stay inside, which is of course dangerous.
Drilling and blasting is the name of this jacking technique. Drilling mainly involves manual labor. This is not only physically demanding, but also very dusty. Drilling and blasting has been handed down as a tunneling technique in mining since the 17th century. Now comes the explosive. Routine must not set in here, because even small mistakes have catastrophic consequences.
With explosives, you have to consider a lot. The right handling with the explosives is important. The detonators are very important. You mustn't damage the capsule, bend it a little, or drop something on it. And make sure that you do everything according to the rules, because a lot can go wrong. With explosives, if something happens, the chances of survival are usually not that good.
The miners use emulsion explosives. This is less explosive than gelatinous explosives and safer to handle. In order for the blasting to proceed as desired, the men mustn't damage the detonators under any circumstances. A little later, all the blast holes are filled with explosives. When blasting, the men have to be careful not to destroy any lines. For the detonation, the men take cover at a safe distance.
Attention!
The miners inspect their work. Before they can continue working here, the toxic explosive gases have to vanish.
The blasting was successful.
That worked out well. Nothing more stands in the way of further drift. The Neuroder underground waste disposal site is located in the Werra potash plant, and it is in a disused part of the Hattorf-Winterschall mine. Potash is still being extracted from another part of the mine, which is why the landfill is continuously growing. Landfill manager Arndt Schneider takes a sample to one of 3 underground storage rooms. The samples of all stored waste are kept permanently. The oldest ones have been there since 1972.
Of course, the spectrum is very broad. From all industrial processes where substances remain that can no longer be recovered or recycled, they inevitably end up in disposal, that is, in landfills. This starts with the automotive industry, the classic chemical industry, paints, dyes, electroplating. It continues with asbestos-containing materials, artificial mineral fibers, everywhere where, in principle, pollutants have escaped and mixed with the soil or construction waste. These materials are separated and then sorted according to their contamination, and the highest contaminations are sent to the landfill.
If necessary, the samples are reanalyzed. All customers can get their waste back if, for example, new recycling processes are available for it. The morning sample is not yet ready to join the others in the samples room. First, chemical laboratory technician André Horn has to analyze and release the sample material that has arrived.
Right, I'm going over to the paper. Will you let me know? All right, see you then.
Soon the experts know whether or not they can accept the freshly arrived waste. If André finds irregularities, the waste goes back to the customer. But that's the absolute exception. Using a technique called X-ray fluorescence analysis, André can determine the elements contained in the sample.
When new waste comes in and something doesn't fit, finding out what doesn't fit is quite exciting.
After just a few minutes, the results are in. André compares the analysis data with the specified values on the computer. He also checks if there is anything unusual in the waste. Axel Papke was already waiting for the results.
So, everything with the waste is okay?
It's okay.
Then I'll have it unloaded and get the papers ready. Thank you.
All in order. The freshly rebanded barrels can go underground.
The waste is okay, you can unload. Then drive right up to the shaft. It should be hooked in right away. All right then.
Axel Papke knows that toxic waste occurs in many areas, caused by all of us. The landfill worker is glad that he can do his part to keep the waste safe.
It gives you a certain security. I also live here in the area and want it to be safe. So it gives you security and a bit of pride that you are responsible for ensuring that the waste is properly taken underground here with us.
The barrels are transported underground by elevator. Up to 500 tons of hazardous waste arrive at the Neuroder underground waste disposal site every day. One of only 4 Class 4 landfills in Germany, the highest landfill class of all. This toxic waste from France will now travel down more than 700 meters. In Hesel, 57,000 boxes are packed every day. Especially fresh goods go to cold storage, where they remain at most until the next day. The cold store was extensively rebuilt and modernized. Since the conversion, it's around 1,500 square meters larger than before and more energy efficient.
It's pretty cold in here. That's why you always put on a jacket when you're in here for a longer time and not just walking through. Very cold, one must say. But it should also be, so that our goods remain fresh.
The experienced order picker is well equipped. Ingo controls the room climate. Temperatures are closely monitored to ensure that all perishable goods always have a perfect environment.
The temperatures are okay. Here you can see the temperature for the normal cold store, where the yogurt and the milk are stored. We are now at 3.5 and 4.2 degrees, which is perfectly fine. And here you can see that the cold store for meat is at 2.2 degrees. So everything is still fine. Doesn't need to be colder or warmer. We can leave it like this.
Temperatures like in winter. Difficult conditions for the order pickers. That's where heavy physical work comes in handy.
Hello, everything all right? It's a little cold or not? You with such a thin jacket, but I guess if you work, then that's okay. This already looks very good here.
Picker Tammo loves working in the cold store. Summer is not his thing. The fresh goods have to get out quickly. The picker hardly has time to freeze.
No, it's not too cold for me. A sweater is enough for me. It's a pleasant temperature. For some it's too cold, but for me it's perfect.
The changing workplaces between winter temperatures in the cold storage and normal room temperature in the other storage areas can become a problem. Danger of catching a cold.
We usually send the order pickers out during the break or after the break because they already have the temperature compensation anyway, so that they can continue working properly again and don't have to return to the dry storage area, sweating or frozen.
Ingo Lücht knows the work in the warehouse inside out.
Hello.
10 years ago, Ingo trained as a commercial assistant for business information technology. In the meantime, he organizes the work as Deputy Warehouse Logistics Manager. Lunchtime, particularly stressful for Ingo Lücht and his colleagues. The goods have to get out to the stores.
When I have a pedometer with me, I'm usually at around 12,000 steps a day that I walk through the warehouse. I think the order pickers actually have even more because they are on the move even more. But in general, you always get your 10,000 steps, which are also recommended. That's perfect.
Most non-perishable items are stored in high bay warehouses, packed in exactly the same way as they will later be in the store. Packing is carried out using the pick per voice method. Instead of written lists of goods, the pickers are told which items to pick via headphones. This process is faster and safer. This is because the pickers can always look ahead.
That's what we always tell the order pickers, to work ergonomically. Not holding like that, but you should go down on your knees with a straight back, preferably so that you also have the weight in your knees and don't have to lift it with your back. And then, of course, it's a little easier during the course of the day, because at the end of the day, after you've been picking for 8 or 9 hours, it's very strenuous to lift the last boxes.
If something's missing, the pickers sound the alarm.
Kevin, would you please get a pallet down here?
The forklift drivers assist the pickers with their work.
Exactly. Here at Biocreamer, please. Yes, exactly. No, just put the pallet down.
New supplies for the pickers. The warehouse workers try to work as efficiently as possible. No unnecessary paths and no superfluous labor. All goods to be picked must therefore be quickly accessible.
Wonderful. Would you take this pallet again? Thank you.
Ingo is satisfied. Now the coffee can be packed again without any problems.
In 1 hour, we have to pack 220 or even more than 220. But it is possible. If you want it, you manage. I myself pack 250, 255 per hour.
The difficulty is that each pallet should be stacked as high as possible to load the trucks efficiently, but not too high, because that would be dangerous. The ready packed pallets are picked up and are taken to the truck. In Hallstatt, brine production is progressing. More than 1 million cubic meters of the saline liquid is extracted annually. Foreman Florian Unterberger keeps an eye on things during tunnel drifting.
Yeah, you have to be fit. We have a physically demanding job, so you have to be in good shape. The routes are getting longer. The old routes are, of course, partly abandoned, but new ones are always milled, so that we can install new equipment again for brine production.
The salt cannot be mined directly in Hallstatt. Instead, so-called wet mining is carried out. The men need a lot of space to install the necessary machines. In addition, they always need new ways to work their way further into the mountain. The miners extend an existing roadway.
Good luck. How does it look? Ready? Let's see if we can move forward towards the dam.
At this point, the rock is removed with a so-called road header. The miners don't know for sure what's waiting in the rock in front of them.
The worst thing would be if gas were trapped in the rock, for example. Methane gas is very dangerous. If it has a certain concentration, it can explode when sparks fly, and then it's really dangerous. So you have to make sure that you avoid it somehow, or pre-drill and measure it beforehand. This must not happen, because otherwise there will be deaths.
Thomas Höllmüller operates the road header. The machine eats its way through the rock with the moving cage. The overburden reaches the end of the machine via a conveyor belt inside. The drilling direction is precisely specified. Drilling straight is not that easy.
The biggest problem is the dust. You can't see anything. We have magnets at the front of the turntable. We use them to orient ourselves. And because it's dusty, we can't see anything. Then we'll have it pulled off again so you can see again, and it's just pretty loud.
The first road headers came into use in Eastern Europe in the mid-1960s. Since the 1970s, also in Western Europe. The machine makes good progress in the salt rock. If the men encounter harder rock, they have to blast. Visibility is getting worse and worse. Thomas Höllmüller remembers his first mission with the machine.
It's strange when you can't see anything around you and you more or less don't know where you are. But you get used to it quickly. Now it's everyday life.
A little later, Thomas interrupts his work. Before he can continue, the colleague must move the pile to the tipping point. A little further on, colleagues are drilling for salt with a special drill.
That's the inner core barrel. It's assembled now and then shot in by compressed air. And then we drill 3 meters and then retrieve it and check if you're in the saline rock or not, which wouldn't be good for us.
The aim is to obtain a rock sample, the so-called drill core. This is done with a drill that's hollow in the middle.
You can actually do a lot wrong. If the air pressure is too low, then the cutting edge is clogged and you have to remove the complete tubes again. Or when a core gets stuck at the bottom. Or you drill water or something into the gas. The whole pit would be flooded with water if you don't stop it. Because there can be up to 100 bar water pressure on it.
The boreholes are analysed geologically. If the men really do come across salt here, brine production can begin at this location.
With the drilling machine, it's physically not so strenuous, but removing the pipes is. The most strenuous part is actually the propulsion. Of course, it's heavy equipment, but we're all in good shape anyway.
The miners make 3 funnel-shaped holes. What will the men find here? Back in Hesse, a load of waste containing mercury is on its way underground at the Hafer-Neuruder underground waste disposal site. Edwin Gauron stores the waste down here. He always knows exactly what he transports.
Yes, I have to know it. There are so many different material samples. You always have to go to the control station and ask, what have I loaded? And then I drive to the right place accordingly. Of course, you have to internalize everything first. There are quite a few places where you store.
The deposit is 750 meters deep. In many cases, the landfill is referred to as the most toxic place in Germany. Not quite right, because most of the toxins are not particularly highly concentrated in the waste. But they're still dangerous. Edwin Gauron makes his way to the current storage site. In total, the landfill covers an area of 18 square kilometers, 2,000 soccer pitches. Edwin has been working down here for 15 years.
It's always dark here, so that's a huge factor. And then there are always the local conditions. You can also see it here. They are all quite narrow stretches, and where we store, these are old mining sites. And of course, it also goes up and down, which can be a bit dangerous when driving, especially when driving a truck, when we are driving uphill and downhill. You then confuse ridge with brine. Brine is the ground and ridge is the ceiling.
A maximum speed of 30 kilometers an hour is in force in the subdivision landfill. For safety reasons, eating and drinking is also prohibited in this part of the landfill. Edwin has respect for the material on his truck, but he isn't scared.
You know that you don't drive sand around here, or as we always say, powdered sugar. We do know that these are dangerous substances, and of course we drive accordingly. So we can't go full throttle here, and in the end we've lost half of it.
After 15 minutes, Edwin has arrived. It is summery warm down here. Edwin doesn't know what the weather is like outside. That's not the only limitation for the landfill workers underground.
The warmth and everything is pretty strenuous for the body. When you come home, you know what you've done. A real miner is deprived of light, air and sun. Of course, it's nice to see the sun and breathe fresh air.
Edwin Gauron is one of 58 employees underground. For unloading, he switches from the truck to the forklift. It's precisely prescribed where the miner stores the respective waste. All materials are distinguished according to 12 groups and stored on the basis of these groups. In particular, the substances are separated into acidic and alkaline materials. In this part of the landfill, Edwin is spoiled for choice. There is still plenty of space here. In Hesel in East Frisia, things have to move fast so that 82 supermarkets no longer have to wait for supplies. Ingo Lücht takes one last look at the fruit and vegetables that are about to leave the warehouse.
Here you can see it quite well. The controller has already checked the stack here. This no longer seems to be okay. Some onions are slightly muddy or dented, and then they are no longer good. There are also some flies flying around, so they are certainly taken out. The goods do not seem to be good anymore. We'll take them out with a lifting cart.
The supplier will take back these onions tomorrow, but there won't be an onion shortage today. There are still enough in stock.
I always say that every day is different, and that's also the beauty of my job. There's always something new happening here. There are always new articles coming in, other articles going out. But we always look forward to the fact that every day is a little different. Of course, some routine sets in, but as I said, every day is different, and you always have to adjust to something new.
Now they can get started. It becomes particularly stressful because the fresh produce has to get out as quickly as possible. This is only possible with a lot of manpower. 30 order pickers keep up the pace in the fresh produce department. The men have to work very well coordinated with each other. If an order picker doesn't pack fast enough, there will be a congestion. Siegfried Behn has just started as a new order picker in the central warehouse.
Everything all right with you? Are you still having a hard time with picking? I have to say, it looks good. But as I said, you first have to get used to the physical work and picking. It's a bit more unusual. But fruits and vegetables are okay, right?
Unlike his colleagues, Siegfried works with a packing list to get used to working with the pallet truck for the time being. In 2 to 3 days, he too will reach for the hat set. Siegfried worked as a warehouse clerk before. Stress and physical labor are old hat for him.
I'd say it's different for everyone, because we all interpret stress very differently. And as I said, you simply don't have to let stress get to you. Just keep going. You have to be fit, but if you have normal physical fitness, you can do it. And you just have to have willpower.
The warehouse workers pick up to 12,600 boxes of fruit and vegetables a day. Shopping big way.
You're always on the move. There are people who like to sit at a desk, and I like to be on the move. I just need this physical fitness, and I enjoy it.
Within 60 minutes, the men are ready. Now all the assembled goods are loaded onto the 19 company-owned trucks. Each truck has its own pitch with the pallets for its tour.
We're supposed to have a bread pallet at 70 now, and we do. We have a meat container, we have a fruit pallet, and a refrigerated fruit pallet. Yes, only 2 boxes have been ordered. They have been packed into the refrigerated container. Fits. Everything is there. Daniel, you can load all this. It fits. I counted everything. So, it's complete. Wonderful. Very good.
Daniel Walkes takes over from here. The truck driver already takes goods that are not expected in the stores until 10 a.m. tomorrow. The fruit. Otherwise, the truck would be half empty. The logistics expert wants to avoid that at all costs. Daniel steers his pallet truck smoothly through the warehouse. He had to learn that at the beginning, and while doing so, he gained a lot of respect for his colleagues.
When you see how well they can do it, you're always afraid. You also have a bit of respect when one comes shooting out of the gate, because you can't see it, you can only hear it. That's why you have to pay attention to everything, to the noises, to the noise of the lifting carts. Even if someone is loading next to you, you all have to pay attention to that. Or like now, for example, when all the gates are occupied, right at the beginning and all the drivers are loading at the same time. It's usually like that, so you have to be a little careful. Everyone has to watch out for everyone so that you don't run over some feet.
All items should be loaded in such a way that unloading proceeds quickly. Today, Daniel takes goods for 3 different stores.
Let me help you for a minute. Super.
Done. The warehouse empties. The trucks hit the road. Time for Ingo to finally catch his breath.
The gates close, the drivers go out of the warehouse. The pickers are also slowly leaving, and then it gets a little quieter, and you know that it's okay. Now the time has come to relax a little, finish your last job, and then you can leave here with a clear conscience. You've finished another day, and then tomorrow you'll continue with a new day and new challenges, so to speak.
Ingo manages to finish work on time. Everything went well today. The stores get their ordered goods on time. Back at the Hafer-Neuruder underground waste disposal site, miner Edwin Gaurun is still a long way from calling it a day. Edwin actually learned a skilled trade. By chance, he came to the landfill and stayed.
If that burdened me, then I wouldn't do the job. Then I couldn't do the job, at least not with a clear conscience. I can't drive around here and be afraid all the time. That doesn't work. We've had people like that down here before. I still remember when I started and there was a colleague with us who was just here for 2 days, which didn't work at all. No, and then you have to be honest and say, okay, I'm afraid or something. You don't need to say, I am a real man. That's complete nonsense. That's when accidents happen here, and we don't want that.
The waste is safely stored in the former salt mine. A 300-meter thick gas-tight layer of salt rock lies above the waste. The clay above prevents groundwater from penetrating the salt rock. This means that the waste is stored dry, and the drums do not rust. To keep it that way, no liquid substances get down to the bottom. Another chamber is already full and is closed with a brick wall. Bricklaying work underground can only be compared with work above ground to a limited extent.
This is more difficult. You have more effort, much more effort. Outside you make your layer measurements and then you can get started. But that's not possible here. Sometimes it's that high. Back there it's quite low. And everything has to be adjusted. That's the difficulty here.
Das muss halt eben alles angeglichen werden. Das ist die Schwierigkeit hier.
Later, another barrier of salt rock and concrete is added. Every 4 years, the group must prove to the inspection authorities that the landfill is safe for the next 100,000 years. Edwin Gaurun is satisfied. All the waste is safely stowed away. It's almost closing time. His job is secure. Waste will continue to be stored here until at least the 2060s.
You come down here every day anew. You have to adapt to the conditions. You have to improvise in places. It's actually quite a lot, very diverse. So I couldn't imagine sitting at a desk for 8 hours, because that wouldn't be my thing.
Another successful working day comes to an end for Edwin Gaurun. From Hesse back to Austria. In the salt mine, the miners want to open up a new route for brine production. Whether they extract brine at this site depends on the rock sample the men take.
Now we have caught up with the inner tube. That's full with the core now, the 3 meters that we drilled out. Now let's see what's in it.
The miners venture an initial conclusion.
Not bad, I'd say.
Geologists will have to decide later whether brine production is really worthwhile here.
This is beautiful salt, pure salt. Here it's quite nice. There it gets a little worse. There is little salt, for example. That is rather slate, which we do not like so much. That's the end now, at 30 meters.
Elsewhere, brine production is already underway. Pierre Prokop inspects the progress.
Go. Good luck. Everything all right? Looks good.
Brine production is extremely costly.
We drill a hole with a depth of about 250 meters. Then the 2 pipes are installed, 2 3.5 brine pipes, which are installed. And then water is flushed down through one pipe and the brine is brought up through the other pipe. The process then takes about 1 to 2 years, and then we have such a large cavity at the bottom that we can then get the brine up that we leave in the water above.
The larger the cavity becomes, the higher the salt content in the liquid. Pierre wants to see how the solution is developing. If the salt content is high enough, the brine is transferred to the salt works. 320 grams of salt per liter are desired.
10 grams per liter, which is still relatively low because we are still in the development phase. This means that it will now take about 1 year, and then we'll have 320 grams per liter.
In the meantime, Florian Unterberger can no longer imagine doing any other job.
Still, it's not a job like any other. Obviously, if you grow up in Hallstatt, you realize that this is a place with a long saline tradition. And of course, you're proud when you have a job in your hometown and when you work at the salt works.
Generations of miners toiled here before Florian. Despite all the technical developments, working in the salt mines is still a badass job.